Why is this even a bad thing? Isn't something that's done easier meant to be better? Isn't that a good thing? Like, if you think about Google Maps, do we really want to go back to using physical maps and compasses? The reason is, I just think it's a shame. Because what once was passionate artists who fell in love with the process of making art and turning their struggle or experience or their culture into art are being removed from that process. All these artists across so many different mediums are being replaced by unartistic processes and people who are money grabbers, diluting discoverability of people who genuinely love the creative process. Isn't that the entire point of art, other than the fact that it's just an output, is that the creative process exists at all and that the human intention behind it exists at all? It's not just the existence of the end product that creates the purpose of the art. It's not just the end image or the end video or the end music song. Art is strange because compared to a lot of other work, for people to enjoy art, a lot of the enjoyment comes from the awe of how it was made in the first place. That's undeniable. And that human beings created it with just their ideas and raw skill. A lot of the enjoyment of art comes from that appreciation. People watch movies or look at art and don't just enjoy it purely on the emotions it gives them. Some people's favorite movies are because they love how it was made. You know, for example, stop motion films. When you remove the human from the process, you're also removing the appreciation. AI appreciation stretches as far as, wow, the technology has advanced so much. There's not a lot of appreciation behind it, if I'm being honest. Most people are already bored of AI. You're appreciating the process and the technical logical advancement. The appreciation pretty much stretches as far as that sentence goes. AI art, a tool or a replacement? I'm going to try and keep my bias as low as possible for this video, even though I believe AI is super damaging and it's already damaging towards the creative industry and artists. The purpose of this video is just to purely look at AI and ask the question, is this a tool or is this a replacement? It's kind of ignorant, I would say, to purely look at it through the lens of what it actually is and not the future damage it could potentially cause, because that's kind of like ignoring reality. It's kind of like putting blinkers on. But for the sake of this video, I will try and keep my personal bias of AI to the minimum. So let's say, ideal scenario, AI doesn't replace a large majority of creative jobs out there and artists' jobs. Is AI a tool that the artist is using, or is it a process and output replacement of the artist? We're going to be looking at what that actually would look like. We're going to be looking at artists right now who are using AI as a tool, and we're going to be defining what is actually a tool versus a replacement. So let's discuss. And this video is not to convince you of my views. This video is to spark discussion. This channel isn't necessarily a anti-AI channel. It's more a discussion channel. It's a pro-artist and human art channel, but specifically it's just to spark discussion around these topics. So if you want to add or challenge anything that I've said in the comments, please do, and I'll respond to them, and I might even make videos about certain things. So yeah, let's get into it. What defines something as a tool for the artist? What defines something as a tool, I would say, if it's not heavily devaluing you or removing you from the process and it adds a different way or a faster way of doing something, I would define that as a tool. So what are examples of things that are tools versus things that are replacements in relation to the arts? An example I see brought up a lot is that painters used to think that with the invention of photography, painting would become obsolete. And obviously that argument is used to highlight the fact that painting hasn't become obsolete. Photography actually became an art form of itself, and painting still thrived. But there's a lot of nuance to this statement, and it's almost a anti-AI statement if you think about it. So I'll discuss that. So they say that when cameras were invented, realism or portrait artists were put at risk of something that can be done with just a click of a button, hence putting them out of work. But that isn't the case because they still have work. It's hard to compare AI to anything of the past because AI is so versatile. It's like a Pandora's box of possibilities. It doesn't just affect one style of art. Like, it doesn't affect just one artist or like illustrators. It affects everything. So to say that you can compare it to anything of the past, like, it's just like the invention of any new thing. It's not, because it's so new, so versatile, and what it's actually doing is replacing the brain of the artist. And the output, of course, but it is quite hard to quantify how it actually relates to things of the past. So I don't think just using that as the sole example of why AI is okay now is a good thing. So anyway, let's get into why I actually think that. Just to draw this direct comparison, yes, those painters were put in a situation of less work, but the reason that they weren't replaced by photography is because the actual art of what they were doing that was replaced is realism capturing, and that's not everything that painters can do. The reason that painters still had work after photography was invented is because photography only replaced a sliver of what artists can do. All photography replaced was realism capturing. That's pretty niche, and that's the reason why painters still had work after it, because that's not the only thing they can do. Whereas AI art doesn't just impact one sliver of other art, it impacts the entirety of many art mediums, most art mediums. This is where someone who is pro AI art who is watching might say, well, just as photography is a new art medium that affects other aspects of art, so is AI art, because AI art is still an art medium because it takes artistic skill and vision and manipulation. I heavily disagree, because AI art isn't its own art medium because it occupies the same space as other art mediums. It is directly diluting the other art mediums. Photography didn't do that. It replaced the ability of what it can replace. People using AI art are directly using other people's styles to create the same thing. They're using their life's work and their names to make stuff off of their work. That's not its own art form. That's directly diluting another art form. It's not an artistic skill because it's a process. People are trying to pass off AI art as traditionally made art and tricking people. That's not a new art medium. That's just the same art medium but different. So it's not its own art. It's directly impacting the arts. This might be hard to read, but it says AI isn't an artistic skill because the entire purpose of it is that it is an automated process. Whereas photography does take some skill. You know, not everyone can just jump in and be a photographer. There are people whose careers are photography because it takes skill. Therefore, it is its own art medium. AI isn't an art medium because it doesn't take the skill of other art mediums. It's in fact only an automated process. AI is trying so desperately hard to limit the amount of work and actual process of the human designer in the work. So what is the point of this? Why am I saying this? Does it matter that we've got a faster, newer way of making art? Well, I'll go into the problems in a sec, but to deny that AI isn't an automated process that affects all other art forms, I would say is ignorant, because it obviously is. And it can't draw a direct comparison to photography because photography only really replaced what it was capable of replacing. Realism capturing. So if a new process is capable of replacing an old process, that being realism capturing, it will. So what is AI capable of replacing? AI will replace what it is capable of replacing. Then if AI is affecting so many industries and skills and it's becoming capable of more and more, then you can see where a lot of people's fears are stemming from. I know the argument pro-AI people would bring up to counter this. They would say something like, dude, chill out. We're all going to be fine. It's just the new way of doing things. AI is just a process that's controlled by the artist. Just like the photographer behind the camera, at the very core of it all is human work and intention. But to be completely unfiltered, you're just flat out wrong. AI is an automating process. It's not a tool. With barrier to entries, with rarity, with demand to need, and with difficulty, comes value. People who work in highly demanding jobs that are highly in need or high skill jobs, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes they will get paid more for that because they're providing a service that not only is rare, but is also valuable. If something is abundant and easy to do with essentially zero barrier to entry, tell me how does that not devalue the work? Are you going to pay an artist or are you going to use AI, which is free and just as capable, if not more, and instant? How does that not objectively devalue creative work? Oh, because an artist can use AI too, right? No, everyone can use AI. That's why the barrier to entry reduces. There isn't skill involved in AI manipulation to anywhere near the same degree as it is to make art from scratch, and that is an objective fact. You can't bring up stuff like prompt engineering is silly because why there is a little bit of skill involved in prompt engineering, I suppose, but AI will make that easier and easier. You can use AI to help you in the prompt engineering process. It's such a niche example. It's not even that high a skill barrier towards actually writing or towards actually making the art. It's not really even comparable, and I think most people would agree on that. A couple of weeks of learning how to write a good prompt or using simple AI manipulation tools to get the desired outcome versus years and years of an apprenticeship stage of your life, mastering it from scratch, often taking people a decade of their life to create that ability. So if you need to hire someone to do it in the past, you hire an artist because they are the people that can do it, hence the money and the value exchange. I'd like to hear an example that is an AI artistic process that isn't just an automated version of something a traditional artist would have done in the past. Generating an image and doing some smudgy painting to go in and edit portions, or using very simple directions or shapes and putting images together in a poorly done collage to communicate an idea to an AI. How is this skill? Most AI tools barely take any effort at all, and they are only going to make AI tools easier and easier. They don't want art to be a gate-kept ability for those who take years to learn it. They want it to be simple and easy to use as possible. The messed up thing about this is that it's built off the history of artists' work. It's built off their hard work and talent. People are actually using artists that are still around today to generate more art in their style. It's almost poetic. AI is not trying to be its own art form, it's trying to be a seamless, frictionless replacement. So what's the point of this argument? Basically, it's to propose, is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? Obviously, I believe this is a bad thing, because when you devalue something like that so much, you're basically, you're disrupting the industry and you're replacing it with AI, and obviously all the implications that come with that. I'd like to hear what you guys think about that, and if you agree. Why is this even a bad thing? Isn't something that's done easier meant to be better? Isn't that a good thing? Like, if you think about Google Maps, do we really want to go back to using physical maps and compasses? The reason is, I just think it's a shame. Because what once was passionate artists who fell in love with the process of making art and turning their struggle or experience or their culture into art are being removed from that process. All these artists across so many different mediums are being replaced by unartistic processes and people who are money grabbers, diluting discoverability of people who genuinely love the creative process. Isn't that the entire point of art, other than the fact that it's just an output, is that the creative process exists at all and that the human intention behind it exists at all? It's not just the existence of the end product that creates the purpose of the art. It's not just the end image or the end video or the end music song. Art is strange because compared to a lot of other work, for people to enjoy art, a lot of the enjoyment comes from the awe of how it was made in the first place. That's undeniable. And that human beings created it with just their ideas and raw skill. A lot of the enjoyment of art comes from that appreciation. People watch movies or look at art and don't just enjoy it purely on the emotions it gives them. Some people's favorite movies are because they love how it was made. You know, for example, stop motion films. They respect the director or the writers. They watch a comedy and laugh not just because it triggered something in their brain, but you're almost laughing with the writers and celebrating a comedian because you are happy with the quality of joke they were able to write. Hopefully someone can relate to me on that or understand where I'm coming from. When I watch a comedian, that was a good delivery or that was a good concept, not just that made me laugh. When you remove the human from the process, you're also removing the appreciation. AI appreciation stretches as far as, wow, the technology has advanced so much. There's not a lot of appreciation behind it, if I'm being honest. Most people are already bored of AI. You're appreciating the process and the technological advancement. The appreciation pretty much stretches as far as that sentence goes. All I'm saying is you gotta acknowledge at a structural level what is the foundation of art. It's passion and it's income. Passion because people wouldn't make art in the first place if they didn't love it, and income because a lot of people make art to support themselves. If you remove both those things, yeah, you start to question what is art being made for beyond commercial gain. You dilute the passion from removing the process for the artist and diluting the income with, like I said, layoffs and the devaluation of creative work, since it will become so readily available and in such abundance literally anyone can do it. So at that structural level, what once was passion, talent, years of experience per individual, human intention and thought process swaps over to machines, automation, output, less staff, content and media that wasn't even thought of by a human brain. Just an imitation of what a brain could have thought of. Look, if a pro AI person genuinely thinks that's a better scenario because people who don't want to invest years of learning creative skills get to make their visions come to life with the AI, whatever. But I just flat out disagree. And a lot of other people do too. It's good for companies and it's good for the consumer, but it's not good for artists. I can think of an argument someone who is pro AI could make in response to what I'm saying in this video. And one of like, well, AI is actually empowering for the individual artist because someone who doesn't have the ability to fund a project big like other creative other creative studios could do, such as a game, they can make in-house by themselves with the power of AI tools. If you get what I mean with the fact that they don't have to hire as many staff, they don't have to spend as much time developing the skills that they would need to execute on that because they have AI tools available to them. hence empowering the individual to make a big project that potentially only a big studio with a bunch of stuff could have made in the past. So yes, people and companies will get replaced, but it's fine because the tools aren't gatekept by companies, so the individual can have just as much power to execute on the thing that the company would have made. Hence, yeah, empowering the individual. Using AI processes to streamline things. And like I've said in a different video on this channel, this point is so big that it definitely deserves a video of its own. But I would love to hear artists' opinions on that point. I'm assuming that pro-AI people would agree. So I'm curious what artists would think about that. Just for my opinion, I disagree. I think that it's such a big topic. I did discuss it in a different video, so I'll put up the video and I'll put up the timestamp when I briefly covered that point. But yeah, deserves its own video. There is another argument that could be made. However, in that now with AI, the individual gets a lot of power. It does deserve its own video for sure, but like if I was to say like a counter argument to that, it'd be like, if everyone has the power to make anything without any talent or work or barrier to entry, we're gonna see a massive oversaturation of just stuff, and no one will really be able to be discovered in a meaningful way. It drowns out artists who did kind of contribute a lot of talent and dedication to the art and the piece that they really wanted to show off to the world. Like if you want to make a game, but if everything becomes streamlined, I'm talking a little bit in the future here where all the aspects of game design are streamlined, then if everyone's able to make a game, you're just going to see a lot of shite drowning out the really artistic visions, if that makes sense. And that kind of sounds like, oh, not everyone should be able to make something because it might be shit. But like, it's kind of true to an aspect. If you're gonna dedicate so much time to actually making something, it's probably gonna be a little bit more artistically inclined, I guess. I don't know if that sounds snobbish, but like, don't try and make a comic with AI because who is gonna care? It's just one of the thousands and thousands of generated schlup, you know? So. Anyway, so introduction down, let's look at how artists are currently using AI as a tool. Just looking online through like Reddit and online forums, what I seem to see a lot of artists using AI as a tool as is mostly inspiration. I'm not sure if artists don't want to dilute their work by using AI directly, because I can think of lots and lots of examples you could use AI in the process of whatever artistic work you're doing, which is fair enough because I prefer human talent as well. I think a lot of artists would agree with me. But in a way with AI art, you could have sort of an interactive inspiration, whereas before you would just kind of look at the inspiration online and, you know, collect it into a mood board. AI, you can sort of customize the inspiration. You can kind of go off some general ideas, generate it, and then see what sticks out. Something that's custom made inspiration. That's not me enabling AI use. It's not me saying that's a good use. It's a use, but I still think that most people would kind of agree that inspiration of other artists is a lot more, it's better because there's discoverability of artists, there's appreciation of artists' work. A human made it. If you're an artist and you use AI, let me know in the comments how you use it. I'm curious to see what people specifically use it for. Just on the top of my head, I know a lot of people using AI Photoshop, AI Illustrator, like AI tools inside of the Adobe suite. I know that Photoshop has generative AI and probably AI color correction or AI removal backgrounds and stuff. Just kind of processes in the past that were manual or collected on the internet. People use AI to streamline that, as well as I saw on Illustrator, they have, when you make something like a vector illustration art, you can actually customize the color scheme palette just with AI in real time. Just use AI and, you know, give you a bunch of options of different color options, which is, it's not something that's going to completely tear down the entire creative industry, is it? It's actually quite a convenient tool, but it's the implications of AI. It's like, just because there's a few aspects of AI that it's not damaging, it's kind of helpful actually. I mean, there's lots of examples of that. Doesn't enable the rest of the stuff that comes with AI. So, I mean, take that as you will. So yeah, like take that how you will. I'm curious to see what people are actually using AI for, if you're an artist, in the comments. So to get into the meat of the video, I suppose, we're going to be talking about what artists are currently using AI out there, and we're going to discuss that. Someone left a comment on one of my previous videos, person named GetGPT'd, and they've listed some examples of artists that are using AI currently, and I'll go over that and I'll provide some of my own examples of artists that I think are using AI in a decent way. So GetGPT suggested the people Mike Tyker and Mario Klingman, and basically said that they incorporate mixed media but definitely use AI as a tool. So let's get into it, starting with Mario Klingman. See, this artist is quite old in the sense that I haven't really found a lot of recent works by him. It seems pretty like experimental, older, early adoption of AI software. So I wouldn't necessarily call it even a modern example, but I'll play a video of what Mario Klingman is talking about in regards to AI art and his own work.
If you hear somebody playing a piano, would you ever ask, is the piano the artist? No. So same thing here. Just because it's a complicated mechanism, it doesn't change the roles. Memories of Passers-by is a machine that I created that will keep on generating portraits of non-existing people forever. And it can do that because it uses a collection of neural networks. And in this case, I used portraits painted by the great masters from Western European art history. And yes, so now the machine is in this in a cycle where it continuously creates new faces that start changing, that fade away, and it observes itself and creates a feedback loop. It's not a rendered video or a curated print or curated images that I pre-selected. It is doing it at that moment, which is a risky thing because it's a system where you have only a certain amount of foresight what it might do.
So one of the things he says in that video is like, is the piano the artist, as a justification for AI art, basically saying AI art is a tool and AI art isn't the artist because who's behind it? You know, a piano is actually making the music, you're just controlling the piano, I suppose. Is someone who is playing piano a pianist doing the same thing as someone who uses a prompt and generates piano music on a computer? Is that the same thing? No. Is a paintbrush the artist? No, it's a tool. But then they would argue that AI art is a tool as well. A lot of arguments like this kind of go around in circles in that sense. But I do think it's worth repeating some of these arguments just because, you know, certain things get brought up and it's good to, you know, counter them. The video, as you saw, was a portrait art piece that incorporates randomness and risk, as he puts it, that creates a transforming live portrait artist that's derived from the work of previous artists throughout history. Cool, like I'm not denying that you can make something artistic or entertaining out of AI. Really, art is relative, so I suppose if you find a lot of meaning out of that, like it represents machines or a collective artistic consciousness that's been smudged together and averaged, like I'm not denying that AI art can make something cool looking. I mean, I think this specifically, my opinion is that it's remarkably lame, but I've seen a lot of AI art that's really blown me away and looked amazing. I'm not denying that AI art can make something cool or, you know, meaningful artistically. There is an inherent dislike of AI I have with it just because it is AI, which sounds almost like prejudice, but like I admit, there is an inherent dislike I have of AI works because specifically it is AI, but that's because of the negative associations with AI. If you compare it with like a product that works well, like it works fine, it does the job, it's high quality, but you know it was made unethically, you know it was made with like child labor or slave labor or something, you cannot support the product. You can choose not to buy it or choose to buy something else because of the inherent ethical issues with it, regardless of the quality of the product itself. That's exactly how I view AI art. It's like, I can find stuff out there that's AI generated, that's cool, that's, you know, says something to me that's meaningful, that's, you know, artistically inclined or whatever you want to call it. I see lots of works like that out there that are AI, but I choose not to like it inherently because it is AI. I don't think that's being a Luddite or whatever, that's just having moral standards. If you look at what the implications of AI are doing to the creative industry, what it's doing to artists, what it's doing to, you know, there's these mass layoffs and artists getting stolen their life work. It's demoralizing towards the artistic community. Of course, I'm not going to support that. There is more art out there that are made by humans that is going to be continued to be made by humans that speaks to you to last you multiple lifetimes. I'm not gonna suddenly start consuming AI generated art and music and movies just because it's good. I have a moral line, and that's not going to change for a long time. I mean, who knows what'll happen in the future, but I mean, specifically with this channel, I'm advocating for artists, and want to support human artists, so obviously that's my moral line. But I'm just saying, I don't think it's unjustified to dislike AI purely for the fact that it is AI. I'm curious to see what people think about that as well. So in short, has Mario Klinsmann made art out of AI? I mean, sure, you could definitely argue that. Personally, I'm not a fan of that specifically. To me, it's not really using AI specifically as a tool. It's more just like, I suppose what GetGPT was probably saying using that example is that wouldn't have been necessarily achievable with traditional methods. The point of that piece is that it is using AI, specifically the averaging and the collection of previous artists' works and that live transforming sort of thing, that he's using AI as a tool. But it's such a specific example, I don't think that it it's fine. It's whatever. Like, I don't know if that's a cop-out answer, but I think that it doesn't justify AI just because there's specific use cases like that. He's using the actual software as the art piece. Sure, it is art. I'm not denying that you can't make art out of AI. I don't think that admitting that justifies AI, right? Well, anyway, I'm going to talk about artists that I think are using AI better than the examples he's provided. So, moving on to the second person GetGPT has mentioned, Mike Tyker. Mike Tyker seems to have a lot of very early experimentation with AI, which I wouldn't even necessarily call him purposely using it as a tool. It's almost just like early experimentation with the software. I mean, 2016, he was apparently using it, like a lot of these works. And I haven't really seen a lot of works past 2016, 2017, that kind of era. I haven't really seen a lot of AI-generated works. I could have missed it. What I found, it was more, I mean, real art, like tactile, physical art he's made. He's made like these glass and copper molecule sculptures based on the exact molecular coordinates of each molecule, which is cool. I would argue that's more art than what he's making with the early adoption of just AI faces. Unless I missed something, I wouldn't call that using AI as art. I would just call that trying out something new. It's just a new software that he was messing around with. So moving on to an example of someone who is using AI in an interesting way as a tool, and that's Intranet Girl. So she is an amazing YouTuber. She makes Blender tutorials and honestly one of the best on the platform in that regard. And she made a video called OpenAI Isn't Gonna Steal Your Job Yet.
OpenAI, what do we think? The consensus is that these tools open up a whole new world of creative possibilities. Do you know what? Never mind. Scrap ChatGPT. But right now, after some careful consideration, I'm not sure. I'm not actually too sure. Personally, I feel like creativity and freedom of expression, of thought, problem solving, that's our biggest asset as a human race. And to sort of have the safety net of not having to do that and just let a software do it for you, I don't know, it's given Singularity. This choose your character screen I saw at a local arcade the other day, I just really liked it, so I want to make it with like 3D generated AI characters. This person does not exist. The premise of the website is just you refresh it every time. It just gives you an uncanny image of a human. But none of these humans, in fact, have ever existed or probably ever will exist. I like this guy. This one's so cool. We needed a redhead in the group. I feel a little bit uneasy going through all these pictures, knowing that none of these people have ever existed. Face Gen. Just found it. Pretty good. That's pretty good. Oh my god. That's exactly the level of nightmare fuel that I'm looking for. These are the known associates. Got a blue background going on now. I'm just sorting out the alpha of the hair to make the hair like look better. So I added like a backlight and some like PSX vibey like pixelated stuff. And let's see. That's my guy right there. Ooh. Yeah, bless. I hate to admit it, but that was pretty good. Chieko is a sick name. So this is what I've come up with.
And in the video, she uses multiple AI softwares for specific use cases to create the original vision she had in her head, being the arcade character select screen idea. She used an AI face generator, she used ChatGPT for name ideas, and she used Midjourney for some background art. This, I would argue, is a use case that would be in favor of AI. I mean, clearly she's used AI in specific parts of the workflow, but effort and transformative work was involved. I mean, I have no idea how to do most of that stuff, especially the blended technical elements, but that's exactly what I'm talking about. The impressive stuff that I don't know how to do is the existing artistic skills. The AI elements were the easily replicatable elements. It was the streamlined elements. The streamlining of those specific elements was the part that doesn't take much skill. So how could you argue that it's a new art form? Even if you said that the parts that she used AI for were simple anyway, like the faces she could have got online, the names she could have just scrolled through the wiki or online somewhere to get ideas from. I mean, the background, she could have got that from a stock image or an artist online or a free artist online. But you got to acknowledge the future of where AI is headed and what it can streamline in the future. Music, cinematography, 3D design, graphic design, writing, literature, photography, illustration, comedy, art. All things that did require skills that could be streamlined. So I ask, how is it a tool if all its use cases are replacements? You could argue it doesn't matter because it's just a different way of doing things. I would argue it does matter, as I've said previously. But anyway, that was Intranet Girl. Check out her stuff, she's awesome. Alright, moving on to an industry example, one being the Spider-Verse animation. So you've probably heard about this, but Spider-Verse actually used AI in the process of its animation.
AI was used to animate into the Spider-Verse. The easiest way to explain it is that they animated shots, let's say A, C, and E, having each of those shots at different angles. And they put those designs into a machine learning program, and that machine gave out shots B and D, filling in shots in between two other ones. Then animators went back and made sure the machine did the right thing, and they repeated this process over and over and over again, to the point that eventually the machine could keep on filling in even wider and wider gaps. So they could give it shots F and I, and it filled in the complete blank in between.
So basically how it works is, like, if you think about the jump from 2D animation to 3D animation, it was quite a big jump. With the 2D animation, you would have to illustrate each cell. Obviously, the backgrounds would go unchanged in certain scenes, but generally you would have to draw up each frame. But then with the jump to 3D, they streamlined a lot of that, where you have a 3D model that you pose to create the frames for the animation. Kind of like a digital claymation. So what Spider-Verse did and how it used AI was basically, instead of having the 3D model pose for every single frame, they would pose it one frame, move a little bit forward, and then pose it at the fourth or fifth frame or whatever, and they would get AI to fill in the in-between frames, hence streamlining the process, making it quicker. This I could see as an argument for AI as a streamlining tool, because obviously the 3D models were all made by humans, the artwork, the concept art, the animators are still on the process, they're still animating, they're just using a tool to help cut out a lot of the busy work, I guess they would say. But the thing is, if you use this as an argument for better conditions for animators, I would say that's a decent argument, except specifically with Spider-Verse, which was so adamant about using AI in the process, the conditions were horrible. I mean, 11-hour days, 7 days a week for a lot of artists. 100 artists left the project. A lot of complaints from the animators on the project, basically saying that the conditions were horrible. It was so much crunch time. So it's a bit ironic that the company that is so quick to want to execute on AI to make the process quicker doesn't trickle down those benefits of it being quicker to the artists, to the animators. It doesn't make their workload less intense. It doesn't mean that they have more time for creative expression. It doesn't mean any of that. It means a faster product for the companies, and that's exactly what AI is doing. It's not a utopian example. It's not this perfect, freedom for the artist, especially with companies. All it is, it's a profit enhancer. It's a efficiency enhancer. It's benefiting the companies, not the artist. Absolutely not the artist. And I'm telling you this, in future, if they're doing stuff like this where they're cutting out parts of the process to use AI, I guarantee you they will want to streamline it as much as possible. If they could do bigger and bigger gaps in that animation process, of course they're going to, which is work that an artist isn't getting paid to do. You know, if you're talking about the 3D models, let's talk about the specific assets, the concept art, the writing, whatever. The more that AI gets injected into this process, the less artists are getting worked on that process, the less they're getting paid, the less artists they need on the project, yet they're still getting crunched, yet they're still using AI. You know, it's not an ideal scenario. It's not this new system. It's not like a new software like Unreal Engine for, you know, game creation. It's not like something new that artists need to learn, but it's a better process. No, it's just a replacement process. It's a streamlining process. It's not a new tool. It's not a new software that... Anyway, if AI becomes super normalized and super incorporated into a lot of projects, I mean, your artists, the real human artists, aren't going to be passionate about what they're doing. They're basically delegated to AI editors. So not only does it damage the industry by leaving artists out of jobs, it's making the actual process demoralizing for artists. If you disagree with what I'm saying, if you think that AI art is a genuinely good new way of doing things, if you think that it's an overall benefit to artists, if you think that it's kind of creative liberation, it enhances creative expression for the individual, whatever, if you think all this, like, absolutely, just let me know in the comments why I'm wrong. Like, if you're frustrated with this video, if you think that I have no idea, or I'm just incorrect, or I'm misleading, then let me know. I want to talk with, you know, I want to create discussions. That's what this channel is about. It's not necessarily an anti-AI channel, although it kind of is. I don't have AI hate embedded in my blood. I just want what's best for artists, and I think that AI isn't what's best for artists. Therefore, I'm, you know, arguing against it. I think at its very core, I will always be a human art appreciator till the day I die, just because it's so much more impressive. I mean, it's the same way that claymation is a little bit more impressive than 3D animation, like digital 3D animation. They're both art, they're both impressive, but someone who can make claymation, it's just that extra little bit of appreciation. Like, I'll always have that for traditional artists, because it's a skill. Obviously the hours are there, the thousands of hours of mastery are there, so, you know, that will never die. But I don't know what my opinions of AI will be in the future. AI just scares me because it's already having such a negative effect on the creative industry. It's having such a negative effect on artists. I don't see a lot of positivity coming out of AI. I mean, it's mostly corporate, consumeristic kind of garbage. It's stealing from artists. It's sapping money out of the creative industry. It's all these things. So is there anything wrong necessarily with using AI as a tool? I would say that just flat out using AI without much, you know, input via you is not yours. You didn't make that. And to see people just straight up selling generated art on Etsy or Fiverr or whatever, you're just diluting the industry. There's no talent involved in that. That's not a tool, is it? So I would argue that is just straight up disgusting. However, with AI being such a diverse software, absolutely I can see it being used as a non-damaging sort of tool. I mean, specifically with that Illustrator example I provided earlier in the video, just a recoloration of a vector artwork. Like, that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world. It's a tricky situation because just as artists can acknowledge that AI can be used as a tool because of how versatile it is, it doesn't mean that you can justify all the uses of AI. I think normalizing AI in general is more harmful than it is good, even if there is minute ways that you can use it as a tool. Just the overall impact of AI is too negative to even allow any wiggle room. If that makes sense, I would just say, if you're an artist, discourage AI in all forms, because the more it gets normalized, the more damage it can cause, because obviously AI isn't going anywhere. Obviously, people are going to always use AI in art. I would say that if you're an artist, just support human artists. Find human artists to support and make art yourself without the use of AI. Even if you do use AI art as well, I would encourage you to also make art without the use of AI. Almost as like a mini rebellion. I think that if the general consensus of the population is that we're anti-AI, then I don't think companies will use it as much, because if, you know, game sales are impacted because they used a lot of AI, well, then they're not going to use AI and they're going to hire artists. If we regulate AI to the point where it's only benefiting us, that's a great thing. I don't know what the answer is, because AI is inevitable, so why have so much adversity and distaste for something that will be everywhere, and it already is everywhere? Why not just accept it and move on? And, you know, I can't, because I can only see AI as something extremely detrimental to the creative industry, and I care a lot about human artists and creativity. So if an AI sort of apocalypse were to happen with lots of layoffs and optimization and human artists removed from the process, that's a big deal. So yeah, that's the end of this video. The future of this channel is not going to just be anti-AI. I mean, that's going to be a lot of what it is, discussion around AI, but I want to also encourage and support human artists. So I'm going to be doing like featured videos of artists I like, and yeah, so I encourage discussion in the comments. I encourage any video ideas you want me to talk about, anything like that, leave it below, and yeah, that's it.